Hey, this is JD from Pixlbit, and I'm here playing Journey for the first time as part of my Game of the Year consideration. But also I'm here playing because I feel like I've been on a personal journey this year, this semester, and I just kind of wanted to share that with you guys in kind of a casual format. Almost like a video blog. So pretty much, as you could see, I've done a little bit of the game. That is because I did about 10 minutes worth, and then I realized that I had forgot to press record. So I just said, screw it, I'm just gonna go run it from here since it's only been about 10-15 minutes, and we'll just go from here. I haven't missed much of the experience anyway, and most of you guys have probably played it since I am very late on the bandwagon with this game anyway. So pretty much for those of you who don't know, I write for Pixlbit.com, obviously, and I've been doing it for about, I'd say, almost 2 years, and it's been a really cool experience to write for the site, and I'm really glad that Nick and his younger brother Rob pretty much gave me the opportunity to write for it. But it's been an interesting ride with the whole writing thing, and in terms of where my life is headed at this moment. And as I said before, this semester has been kind of hard for me, and when I finished it today, I kind of had the strong urge to play this game because I felt like I'd been on a personal journey, and I was like, well, I want to play Journey, and today was like the end chapter to a long and hard semester. What better way than to play one of this year's most critically acclaimed video games? So yeah, Journey. Oh, and there's a partner character, so I don't know what he's doing, but playing together, which is cool. Anyway, so like I said, I will be mainly talking about general stuff, as well as playing this game, and every now and then I'll stop talking and I'll explain what's going on, or just my thoughts on the game as a whole. But it's so far I'm enjoying it. I really like the art style. I really think that this game has a lot of interesting concepts, and I just hope that me talking over it won't make it hard for me to communicate with this partner character. But yeah, so like I've been saying, like this semester has been really odd for me. I've been through a lot, personally and academically, and I've dealt with a lot of strife, but I feel like I've overcome it today, as and pretty much I had a whole bunch of things building up that kind of ended up turning out a lot better than I thought. And it's not all over. I still have a lot on my plate, but I feel relieved. I feel like a sense of hope. And for a long period of these last few months, I felt almost hopeless in a way. Not as hopeless as I have felt in the past, but I've definitely recovered a little bit. But anyway, so this semester was interesting for me because it's my first semester as actually second semester as a professional communications major, and I'm taking a lot of classes that interested. I took a lot of classes that interested me this semester, and I thought that overloading myself would be good, just because I'm kind of behind on my graduation schedule, and I wanted to take a lot of courses in hopes of getting it over with. And I found out quickly that that was not the smartest idea, because I don't react well to stress, and what ended up happening for me, at least, was I let too many things build up, as you know, most people do. You know, people procrastinate and they underestimate their assignments, and eventually it just got to a point where I didn't know I was going to recover. And it's not only because of, you know, just underestimating and procrastinating. That's, you know, a huge part of it, but you know, just a lot of my personal issues and you know, stuff like that were kind of getting in the way, which was you know, unfortunate. But yeah, pretty much this semester I took 6 courses, all, you know, things like journalism, because you know, journalism is only something I started seriously considering after working at Pixlbit, you know, writing for them, and it's been cool. So I said, why not look at that as a side career? Because like honestly, I aspire to be a video game designer, and you know, I know video game design is a hard field to get into, but it's something that I've wanted to do since I was young. Like when I played Metroid Prime for the first time, I realized like I want to make video games, and you know, RPGs like Fate and Kaitos and, you know, Tales of Symphonia and stuff like that really kind of cemented that into my brain. And when I was in high school, I started making ideas for video games with my friends, and you know, ever since then it's been something that I've really wanted to do. And you know, it's been hard because I feel like I'm more of the writer, creative type, and you know, I'm not necessarily the programmer, the mathematician. So it's been hard finding my way, and you know, that's why I ended up at the school I'm at now. And you know, I wasn't really wasn't sure, but now, you know, I found journalism as something that I am interested in, and you know, I like doing it. I like writing. But I definitely wasn't ready for what I thought I was ready for, because when I started this semester, you know, it seemed really easy, but you know, I got sidetracked by life, and I underestimated everything, and you know, girls got in the way. Now, you know, stereotypically guys don't get a lot of girls, and you know, nerds, excuse me, nerds don't get a lot of girls stereotypically. And I am sad to say that I fit completely into that stereotype. You know, one could argue that I'm definitely not unattractive or whatnot, you know, but I've just had a lot of self-confidence issues as a youngster, like as a kid, just because I grew up and you know, I kind of grew wide before I grew tall, so you know, I was kind of a bigger kid, and I got made fun of a lot. And you know, so pretty much in short, my history with girls has not been the best. So that kind of came together, you know, and to hurt me in a way, because you know, I feel like my progression in that area has been stunted. So you know, this semester, while taking my classes and stuff, I tried to get involved with a girl, you know, and I was, you know, pretty much focused on that for at least a few weeks, and I really wasn't thinking as clearly as I should have, because I put way too much emphasis on it. And after that, you know, it didn't work out the way that I wanted it to, which really got me down for a period of time, and it was really unfortunate that I let it get to that point where it would get me down the way it did. But you know, I'm a really sensitive person, very vulnerable. So when stuff like that does happen, I you know, take it too far in my head almost. Now the problem with that was, soon after was Hurricane Sandy, which, you know, derailed my school for about 2 weeks. And once we came back from that and everything started to recover, everything kind of just got out of hand, and I lost control of everything that I was doing. So anyway, take a break from that. Let's look at the game. Looks like we hit a checkpoint of some sorts. I like how the co-op is implied, like, you know, you're kind of just working together, kindred spirits almost, same goal. But you know, as I realized what had happened with me personally and how I let myself kind of get distracted by girls. It was kind of too late. I felt like it was too late, at least, to save myself, and I was forgetting a lot of assignments for classes, and late assignments were starting to stack up, and it just became really stressful. And when I get stressed out, I don't handle it the best way. And on top of that, I'm managing my time really poorly. Like I'm writing for Pixlbit, which was cool, but I was just spent way too much time doing things like on YouTube or who knows what, like it just doing stuff I shouldn't have been doing. And it really ended up hurting me. I really misused my time this semester, and I pretty much at one point was just feeling hopeless. And for a period of time I was going through a lot of troubles with my family, like with my brother. My brother and I are very close in a way. Like we grew up together, and he's like 5 years younger than me, but he always kind of used to look up to me, and we used to play games a lot together, and we had a lot of good times. But recently he's getting older. He's kind of become more of an individual, a different kind of person than I thought, and it ultimately strained our relationship in a way. Like we're definitely not the same that we used to be. And it threw me off. I really didn't know how to react to it. Like I don't know how many other brothers have to deal with stuff like that, but I really didn't know how to react to the changes that he was going through. And I feel like I relatively stayed the same for most of my life, but my brother, he kind of had some radical personality changes, at least in my opinion. And it took me a while to adjust to that, and we fought, not necessarily physically, but just we kind of clashed. We didn't really know. I still to this day don't really know where I stand in his eyes. I don't know if he looks up to me, or I don't know if he respects the kind of person I am, or what I do or whatever. But pretty much that just led to a bit of animosity during the semester. And it was taking my mind off of what is supposed to be important, I suppose. Ultimately, I just kind of worked myself into a rut, and I just really didn't take advantage of my semester. So anyway, before I continue, let's see how we're getting on track. Has very interesting systems. I love the way that the sun glistens off of the sand like that. It kind of reminds me of Aladdin. Like I grew up watching movies like Aladdin, like the opening scene in Agrabah, or when you see the Cave of Wonders for the first time. It's like the sand glistened, and that the way that the sand glistens in this game kind of reminded me of that. But yeah, I mean, it's been kind of weird going through this semester, dealing with so many different things, and small things that all added up to overall cause me to get really depressed and down on myself. And when the girl thing didn't work out, I really felt like I just wasn't competent as a person or as a man, and it really took away from the whole point. And I should have been focusing on building up my studies and whatnot, but I just got depressed over some girl that in retrospect probably wasn't even the greatest for me. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people that make these kind of mistakes, and I just one of them. It happened to happen at a bad time. But yeah, I mean, it was tough, and for most of the semester, honestly, I thought I was going to end up failing and flunking out of school. you know, I really let it get that bad, and it really got kind of out of control. And you know, like I was getting really depressed about it, and kind of forgetting about all the good things that I do have. You know, and you know, it was weird, and the only thing that was kind of helping me get by was things like video games, and that's why I spent so much time playing. You know, and you know, I bought a Wii U earlier this, you know, in November, and I, you know, was playing great games like Borderlands and, you know, Halo, and, you know, I'm like halfway through Assassin's Creed, and, you know, I'm playing these games when, you know, honestly I should have been doing work, but it's like I felt like if I didn't play them I would have completely lost my brain, because everything else was kind of just bringing me down. You know, I guess that's like, I don't know how you want to see that, but I think that, you know, in one way it's helpful, but at the same time it kind of hindered my whole performance. Interesting. Kinda. Oh, interesting. But yeah, you know, it's in the end it really is generally about time management, and I know a lot of people are good at time management, and you know, I've proven to myself time and time again that I'm really not good at time management. You know, I always underestimate things, and I should have known that going into the semester before picking 6 classes to take. But you know, what can you do? Like, you know, I kind of was like, oh, if I can do this, then I'll be better off. But you know, I should have just paced it more towards my personality instead. And you know, I did make that mistake for next semester. Next semester, I got it all straightened out, but you know, for a period of time, I thought I wasn't even going to make it to next semester. Like, I thought I was going to bail out. But, you know, I made some type of miraculous recovery that I'll get to later. But, yeah, it's definitely been interesting. Let's see what we got here. Interesting. This looks like it's going to be magical. Oh. Wow. This game just looks phenomenal. Like, I love the art style. I wonder if this person's experiencing this for the first time. Oh. See, I like that. I like how, I kind of, you know, we're just kind of reacting to each other. This game is one of those games that puts a smile on my face. It's well deserved. I think, at least. Not to have hubris or anything. Let's see. So yeah, like I was saying earlier, it's like I really feel like I've been on some kind of personal journey this semester. You know, I started off in a very optimistic point of view, where I really felt like I was going to take advantage of a lot of situations, and I was going to try to get a girlfriend, or at least make headway with females, and I was going to do well in school, and do well in this major. And I really felt like I was going to achieve a lot in a lot of different aspects. And when some of that didn't pan out the way I expected, I was kind of thrown off. And I honestly, I just didn't react to it as well as I wanted to. And I started falling from, someone who's confident into someone who's just depressed again. And a lot of my life I suffered from some kind of depression because of my issues with self-confidence and self-worth and all that kind of stuff. And I know a lot of people deal with these kind of issues, and I know this is generally is a lot of heavy topics, but I feel like these are things that people can relate to. And ultimately, it did kind of pan out in an interesting way, because up until just last week I really felt kind of like down and out, and I was letting a lot of things pile up, and more worried about video games, and I let too much of the semester go by worrying too much about what video games were coming out, and then once all the video games came out, I was like, oh crap, I really have to kick school into gear. Once I did that, I realized I was kind of fucked, and usually I don't let it get that bad. Like usually every semester I have a good grasp of it, but this semester, I don't know, I guess I underestimated it all. And it sucks that I did that. It's very irresponsible of me as a person. But what can I say? I mean, I'm only human, and I make mistakes, but sometimes I have a hard time accepting that I do make mistakes, and I feel like I'm supposed to live up to some image, and when I don't live up to that image, or when I don't succeed at certain things, I really get down on myself. And, wow, this is just beautiful to look at. It's like just sex for your eyes. It really is. Just wow. And I'm totally gonna download this soundtrack. This sounds incredible. But yeah, I mean, I could have handled things a lot better, and I shouldn't let things like females and stuff like that be the thing that takes me away from my ultimate success. But well. So let's see. Now, like one interesting theme of this game that I'm noticing is like this sense of companionship, and like uh, it's really an interesting theme that this to bring up in general, because I feel like, you know, as at least where what I'm going through in my head right now, that theme of, you know, having someone there is really important, and it's a theme that really helped carry me through this semester in general, because, you know, luckily for me, I can say that I have a great support group. I have, you know, amazing friends, and, you know, I have family that I can rely on, you know, at least most of the time. And, you know, my best friends are, you know, like my brothers or sisters, like, you know, the people I've known pretty much all my life. You know, not many people can say that they have, you know, that kind of group. And, you know, most of the people that have entered my life as of recently are, you know, also good people who are, you know, kind of helping me get along in the right path, leading me to, you know, hopefully leading me to, you know, my ultimate goals, and, you know, helping me succeed in one way or another. And, you know, I really feel like I probably wouldn't have made it without my, you know, friends and family. You know, especially at one point, you know, this is more of a trivial matter, but earlier this year, my Nintendo 3DS, which, you know, I got on day one, was stolen. You know, someone broke into the break room at my job, where I had accidentally brought my 3DS to work, and I left it in my book bag, and, you know, the cubbies where we usually keep our bags, and I had my 3DS there, and someone broke into the back and ransacked my bag and stole it, took it. That and pretty much all my downloaded games and Super Mario 3D Land, which I disagree with Nick that that's actually a very good game, I feel. But, you know, that's just a side note, of course. But, yeah, it's like, you know, once that was stolen, I was really upset, because at the time I was saving for my Wii U, and I was saving for other things I wanted to buy for my parents, and, you know, saving up for school loans and whatnot. And it was just another expense. And, you know, I have a history of things like this happening to me, where people just steal for the meanest reasons. Like, you know, they have no good reason at all. They just like to take things from people who have, you know, good things. And, you know, I saved up my money. I had earned it for the 3DS in the first place, and for someone to just feel entitled to take your stuff, and, you know, there's no justice for it, of course. My Toys R Us is, you know, the place where I work, Toys R Us, is crappy, and they had no cameras to even document it, so I couldn't barely prove it. Like, all I had left was my, you know, original box, which I did leave at home. But yeah, like when that happened, I really felt shitty about it. But you know, like I said, thanks to my friends, I kind of made it through. And a really good friend of mine, Mike, who I worked with at Toys R Us, he works at a different one now, but he actually went out of his way to reimburse me for the entire system, pretty much. And that's just something, like, you usually don't find friends who are willing to pay hundreds of dollars for you to get a brand new system. And he, you know, he did it. He said he did it because he wanted me to get, you know, Pokemon and be able to play online, because, you know, I'm one of the only people he does play with and stuff. And but it's still, it's like, you know, how many, you know, that's just the definition of good people. And it's that kind of stuff that rejuvenates your faith when it comes to how people work, because, you know, you go through life and you meet a lot of shitty people, unfortunately, and, people who like to tear you down, but then you get genuine people who are actually there to help you out and bind. And you know, I'm eternally, like, not to reference Toy Story, but I'm eternally grateful. Wow, we got something going on here. Oh god, I just got hit. Fuck. Oh, did I just die? Oh no. I'm okay. Okay, that was weird. Okay, well, looks like this journey won't be as simple as it seemed. But you know, that's just one example. I mean, you know, he's a great guy. He should be commended for, you know, how many people you know would do something like that. Maybe you do, and I mean, I'd hope that somebody, at least everybody knows at least one person that, you know, is that genuine. But you know, the rest of my friends have all, you know, still been there. Like my best friends that I've known since I was young. You know, they've been a constant support, and, you know, helping me with just, you know, trying to keep my morale up and reminding me of why I am here. Because, you know, a lot of times I question, you know, why I'm here. And, you know, especially since I have this, you know, I have this dream to become a game designer. And yet, you know, a lot of times it seems kind of bleak. It seems like that dream will be almost impossible to achieve, especially with the market being, you know, very competitive, and you know, you have to have all this criteria. And either way, I've been trying to pave my own way so far. It hasn't been easy, but you know, I'm doing the best I can with what I have, and you know, hopefully things will turn out at least somewhat well for me. Oh. Kill this ball. Well, I learned that lesson. Stay out of the light. Can't be like flies here. We lost all of our stuff, all of our scarf. That was frustrating. I guess we could use this to hide, maybe. But kind of wish the camera switched perspectives. I have no idea where he is. Oh, there he is. That's a neat mechanic. I like that chirp thing. Anyway. But yeah, like I said, if it wasn't for my friends, I probably wouldn't have made it out the semester in as good of a state that I am. You know, I also have some, you know, really good friends who are currently living with me, who you know, have been a constant support, mainly just because, like, every time I'd be kind of in a bind or, you know, down on myself, you know, I'd speak to them. And they always have good insight, and you know, I feel like that companionship and that, you know, friendship that we have really helped, you know, get me through the tougher spots this semester. And you know, it's just kind of funny that this game makes me think of that, just because you have this, you know, person here who's, you know, he's there, and you know, he could kind of screw you over, but you know, at least my experience right now, we're working together for the betterment of, you know, success, and we're looking out for each other in a way. Oh, that was cool. This game is really, really interesting. You know, I'm not gonna admit, talking about this game, I was hesitant to buy it because it's $15 and I heard the game wasn't even that long. But, you know, especially after the critical acclaim, I really wanted to see what the hype was about. And like I said, today it was just one of those days that helped me realize that, helped me realize that there is hope. And that, that, like, I felt like I came to the end of some kind of journey. And but I keep reiterating myself with that. I don't know why, but I just kind of felt triumphant at the end of my school day today, and I was like, you know what? Let me splurge and buy Journey and experience it. Hopefully, I could finish it today. The mystery of who's playing with me is really intriguing. I didn't expect to be as curious about who I'm playing with as I am. It's like just some random person in the planet, but working together, try to beat this game. See that, like, synchronization. So I'm going to take a break from talking about personal stuff, and I'm going to talk about some games. At the end of the day, that is what I am primarily invested in at the moment. I love video games, have for a long time, and I played a lot of interesting games this year. And I kind of wanted to reflect on the controversial year it has been for video games, because I feel like this year a lot of people were disappointed with a lot of the games that came out, and I just kind of want to give my 2 cents on the subject, because it's easy to get disappointed by games that you've been waiting for, games you had certain expectations for. But overall, I feel like this was a really good year for video games. Like, we saw the release of a lot of different titles that offer different kinds of experiences that all are, unique. You have your Mass Effects, you have your Walking Deads, you have your, Transformers and Darksiders. Call of Duty was really good this year. You have Halo and Assassin's Creed. Like, there was a ton of good games that came out, and sure, they might not all have met expectations set. In particular, I'm talking about games like Assassin's Creed. Forgot there's one more that was really disappointing that I for some reason can't think of right now, because I'm kind of invested in this. But yeah, I'm about halfway through Assassin's Creed 3, and I enjoy the game, but I'm starting to see the flaws more and more as I play. A lot of the gameplay in that game is redundant, and I think that's the thing that's bothering me most about it. But either way, I do enjoy it. Where did my partner go? Oh, there he is. So, even if it isn't the, I'm only halfway through. I still have a lot to experience. But even if it hasn't fully met my expectations. I still like the game a lot more than I thought I would. And Assassin's Creed Revelations was a game I completely skipped on because I was, just suffering from franchise fatigue. I was tired after Brotherhood. I had to kind of force myself through that. And, 3 revitalized my interest in the series, and I really like the main character. I like the game in general. And I really feel like, it'll be worth it when I finish the game. And, there's other games like Mass Effect 3. A lot of people are disappointed with that, but to me, that's still my personal favorite game of the year, just because of the ride that game takes you on. Seeing the conclusions to the story arcs of all these characters that you've, grown to love over the course of the series, and just, the epic scale of the game, and, seeing things happen, seeing these epic triumphant moments with people like, I'm not going to spoil too much, but you have people like, what's his name? See, I feel really shitty right now because I'm forgetting this awesome character's name. Grunt. Yes, Grunt. Grunt had a fucking awesome, excuse my language, but he had a really awesome moment in that game that, caused me to stand up and applaud because of how awesome it was. And, there was a few moments like that, and even though people didn't like the ending, that whole ending sequence, everything leading up to the ending was really, really epic to me. Like, that whole last stand was just awesome. And I enjoyed playing the game. Like, it was a fun game. I played the multiplayer for months, and, I'm still interested in multiplayer. I haven't played as much of it as I wanted to recently, but, it's a multiplayer that I, have no problem going back to. And, it was just the complete package for me, and I plan on playing through it again, and I'm looking forward to the final DLCs. And it was a great game, but a lot of people look at the ending, are disappointed, or they look at some of the shortcomings of the series. I mean, it's not as much of an RPG as the first game, and it doesn't have as many character moments as the second game. But it still provides an interesting experience. It's a game about Shepard as a character in a way, and it's about the finality of everything, and seeing how most of those relationships come into fruition, even if the story did get kind of weird. But I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to more in the series. But I just feel like people are giving it an unfair chance just because the ending didn't make much sense, and it didn't. I'm not going to defend it and say it was a good ending, because it was a kind of shitty ending. But it's something that you live with. Like, at the end of the day, it's BioWare's game, and even no matter how weird it is, it's the way that they intended, or they must have some grand scheme. Who knows what secrets they have. So we'll just see what they do. But I don't regret playing that game at all, and like I said, I plan on playing it more. But another game that really shine for me this year was The Walking Dead. You could see my reviews all on Pixlbit, but I thought very highly of the series, and that game, even though it wasn't really much of a game, it did some great things in the storytelling department, and I really had an experience playing that as well. And the same thing goes for other downloadable games like Dust and Elysian Tale. That game needs to be looked at again, because not a lot of people gave it its due, even though it was the best game of Summer of Arcade this year by far. But that game had some great gameplay and had some great story moments as well. I really think if you're a fan of games like Metroid, or interesting art styles, or stuff like Muramasa, the Demon Blade, I think you should give that game a shot. But even there's a ton of games like Resident Evil Revelations I feel like got underappreciated just because at the time people were looking forward to 6, which was the other game that people were disappointed with. I haven't even gotten to 6 yet, and you know, I was at one point this year, Resident Evil 6 was my most anticipated game, and now Resident Evil 6 is, you know, I'm waiting for the price to drop because I want to play it and I think that I'll enjoy it, but I just don't think it's worth going out of my way to play right now, you know. But Resident Evil Revelations, on the other hand, that was a fantastic game, and you know, it really showed what the 3DS is capable of. Wow, that was some interesting imagery. But yeah, like so Resident Evil Revelations, I highly recommend people check out. But other than that, to round off the games that I really enjoyed this year, if I had to just throw a top 5 out there in no particular order, The Walking Dead, Mass Effect, Borderlands 2, what else did I play this year? I can't remember. I'm too invested in this game right now. Crap. Oh, Zombie U is definitely up there. I don't know if it's in my top 5, but it's definitely in my top 10. That game is pretty great. It's just very stressful. You know, I'll get into that in my review of that game, but I really enjoy it, but you know, that game creates more stress than most games just because, you know, that game doesn't play. Anyway, what else have I played this year? Halo 4 is up there. It's in my top 10, not my top 5. Assassin's Creed, kind of up there. Oh, Spec Ops is up there. I still have to finish that, but I really enjoyed what I played so far. It's a really interesting premise. You know, this game is, you know, working its way up that list very, very fast, and could possibly make it into my top 5 if, you know, the payoff is as good as I've heard. But I mean, you'll probably end up hearing my top 5 in a podcast or something coming down the line. But yeah, I definitely feel like there was a lot of good games this year. You know, there's games that surprised me that I didn't think I would enjoy, like, you know, WWE13 and Nintendo Land, Black Ops 2. Like, you know, I thought I was done with Call of Duty, but Black Ops 2 has a really interesting campaign and I really enjoyed it. Oh crap. The fudge. The wind. Okay. Let's work together. But oh yeah, well yeah, I played Xenoblade Chronicles is definitely on my top 5 this year. I haven't finished it because the game is incredibly long, but yeah, what I played of that game I really, really enjoyed. That game is definitely worth the buy. Last Story was good. Tales of Graces was alright. You know, I played some good games this year overall, though I'm pleased with this year in gaming. You know, and I'm really excited for next year, just because next year just looks incredible. You have stuff like South Park and, you know, The Last of Us, Tomb Raider, BioShock Infinite, Rayman Legends, which the demo just came out. That game is incredible, in my opinion. You know, The Wonderful 101, which is my, you know, Beautiful Joe 3, you know, until hopefully they do announce one day. But yeah, I mean, I think people, you know, like to nitpick because they have all these expectations, but, you know, I think they should just realize what they actually did get, because what they got was pretty damn good. to have to split the video soon.